Divorce 101. What do you need to know if you're going to get divorced? Okay, when someone comes in and talks to me about a divorce case, I always say to them, do you want to tell me about your story, or should I go through Divorce 101 with you and give you the general outline of what goes on in a divorce case? Normally, we're going to get to the Divorce 101 sooner than later in the course of a consultation. So, what is it? What happens? You have three basic components in any divorce case. You have the grounds for the divorce, which is the legal theory under which you're going to get divorced. And there's multiple divorce grounds in the state of New York. There's cruel and inhuman treatment, there's living separate and apart pursuant to a separation agreement, or living separate and apart pursuant to a separation decree. There's abandonment, both constructive and actual. There's imprisonment for 3 consecutive years. You could also have the irretrievable breakdown, which is the no-fault basis. Most folks in this day and age agree to the irretrievable breakdown rather than going over cruel and inhuman treatment, adultery, or one of those other grounds. So that usually is a component of the divorce case that's resolved pretty quickly, pretty easily. And really, you don't want to fight over it, because by the time you hire attorneys, you don't need to fight over the grounds. It's just merely a legal theory under which you're getting divorced. The next phase of your divorce is your custody, visitation, and child support. If you have children, custody, visitation, child support has to be determined. Custody, the main factor on that is who is the primary care provider. If you have physical or mental issues that impact your parenting, and if you're a custodial parent, are you going to be able to support the relationship with the non-custodial parent? Those are the main factors that the court are going to be looking at in a custody dispute. There are other things that can come into play in those circumstances, but those are your main components. Child support is determined under the Child Support Standards Act. In the way child support works, there's a sophisticated calculation, but if you get down to the basics of it, it is essentially 17% of your gross income. Yes, that's gross, not net, for one child, 25% for 2 children, 29% for 3 children, 32% for 4 children. And those are your basic calculations. There are statutory add-ons for child support for things like health insurance, unreimbursed health care, child care, enhanced educational opportunities, meaning if you have a child in private school or preschool, the court's not going to require you to pull them out of that school if you're going to get divorced. Spousal support is something that is presumed to be awarded in cases now. It's a mathematical formula, so your attorney is going to need to know what the disparity in income is to determine if you're eligible for it. Attorney's fees are also presumed to be awarded from the moneyed spouse to the non-moneyed spouse. So again, it's based on the disparity in income, and it's a mathematical equation. Your attorney just needs to know what your respective incomes are to determine if you're eligible for that. And then your third main component of your divorce is equitable distribution. That's a division of your assets and liabilities that have been acquired during the course of your marriage. The things that you take into consideration are going to be a house, a pension, a 401k, stocks, bonds, collectibles, cars, boats, motorcycles, things like that. There's almost always credit card debt involved in these circumstances. There could be other forms of debt. A house is usually has a mortgage associated with it, and/or a home equity line of credit. And those are all things that we look at and determine how to divide up in the context of a divorce. So that's essentially the components that you're going to take into consideration during the course of a divorce. There may be, every case is very fact specific. Every case has certain differences based on people's individual circumstances. Somebody may own a business. They may have bought or formed the business prior to the marriage, which means it's separate property. There are certain things where you're going to have separate property claims for things like, an inheritance. What else? A gift, a personal injury settlement. Those are separate property. You could also have a prenuptial agreement in place. So all those things are instances where there could be a separate property claim. But those are your main factors that you're going to take into consideration if and when you're going to get divorced, and those are the things that your lawyer is going to be inquiring about and that you're going to be grappling with in the context of any divorce proceeding.